Brandon Ingram was a late scratch Monday with knee soreness, and we have an update on his status after an MRI. Plus, what do you think about the Pelicans' new in-season tournament court? It's the Wednesday episode, a game day episode of Locked On Pelicans. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pelicans, your daily New Orleans Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Pelicans, the daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Pelicans and NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, available wherever you get your podcasts and available on YouTube. I'm your host, Pelicans Insider, credential member of the media, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter. Here with you on this Wednesday, a game day for the New Orleans Pelicans on the road, taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder. We'll look at that game briefly in the third segment of today's show, but we got to get to an injury update, and yeah, we got a little bit of fashion that we're going to discuss here on Locked On Pelicans today. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. And of course, thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday for y'all, breaking down everything you want to know about this Pelicans team, the Number One Pelicans podcast. Become an everydayer and support the channel by listening Monday through Friday. Rough loss, we explained that one on Tuesday. What went wrong Monday against the Golden State Warriors? No Brandon Ingram was a big part of that. So let's get into that. That wasn't ideal, losing Brandon Ingram. And I explained in that show, the recap show we did, you need his shot making down the stretch. So for him to be a late scratch when teams are kind of doubling and tripling up on Zion, you're not hitting your three-pointers in the second half that you need to. And when they were hitting their three-pointers, they were fine in the first half. They were down 2 to a team with Steph Curry who was just going off because didn't really mention it in yesterday's show. He's ridiculous. He's ridiculous and just does absurd Steph Curry things. But they need Brandon Ingram, at least until they kind of get some things sorted. But BI right now would be good. And we got an update. That was a late scratch, right? We saw him at shoot-around on Monday morning. Then all of a sudden, it's like he's out. And that kind of came out of nowhere. So it seems like, is this concerning? Is there something more in play with all of this? We'll get into all of that right now. So Brandon Ingram got an MRI, according to head coach Willie Green, after practice the other day. And kind of a precautionary thing. Let's just see. No structural damage, anything like that. His official status, if you need to know one thing from this whole show, his official status right now is he's listed as questionable for tonight's game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. There's some pain and discomfort there, clearly, but it doesn't seem like it's necessarily a very big deal. I know you're all probably making the joke of we'll see him in 2 weeks or he'll be reevaluated in 2 weeks. But I don't think that's the case. I don't think he'd be listed as questionable if they really wanted to shut him down. I think there is a chance, obviously it's like 50-50, if he ends up playing tonight. So that's the good thing here. So is there more at play? Because that's something I was asked a lot. And I want to say this. Probably not. I don't think he's unhappy. I don't think this is him sending a message or anything like that. And that was something that came up a lot on Twitter and as part of the Locked On Pelicans Insiders group. And to be perfectly honest, I don't get why that's a question. Is that just PTSD from this fan base getting burned by others before? You know, where does that kind of come into play on things? So I don't think he's unhappy. I think it's just there was pain, discomfort. They said, let's not play you. And he kind of said, okay. Simple as that. I don't think we need to read too much into this. You know, when it comes to Brandon Ingram, what we hope and what I worry is not whether he's unhappy, is does he not like playing with Zion or things like that? Like, no, that's not the case. That's not the case at all. You know, there's nothing that suggests that whatsoever. So I think we can kind of put that out of our minds a little bit here. You know, the issue with Brandon Ingram and injuries is more, he tends to not want to play unless he feels 100%. He missed 29 straight games last year with a toe contusion. It was turf toe. I talked about that. That's tough for an NBA player to play through on that big toe when you're trying to push on that to jump all the time. That ends NFL careers, right? Particularly for like running backs and offensive linemen. So it can be a significant injury. But according to people within the organization, and this has been reported elsewhere too, that, you know, they thought he could have played through it. And it was him decision, his choice to not play some of those games. And they thought he could have been back on the court sooner Maybe not sooner rather than later, but sooner than he was. What we don't want this to be, and what my concern could be, because we've seen this in the past with him, is, this seemingly minor injury. And again, we don't know what he's feeling, right? The pain and tolerance and all that is a very individual, subjective thing. And it's early in the season, where do you want to push something? And I'm sure if this was a playoff game tomorrow, he would be out there and he would be doing his thing. If this is something that lingers, and he tends to not be a guy that plays through pain, wants to be 100% when he is out there on the court, how long is that going to take? And that's the kind of big question. This is potentially, I don't want to say that it is for sure, this is potentially the first real test of the new player performance and care team that's been reported on. I talked about that with Will Guillory when he was on as a guest, and he'll be on next week at some point. He's going to make a regular appearance on the show every other week. Erin Summers of Pelicans.com and for the Pelicans said she'd come on once a month or so. So we're going to have some more guests for you. So I'm excited about all that. We'll definitely get Will Guillory on next week for sure. He's due. So that's going to be something to look forward if you're an everydayer. Will and I talked about how, the players themselves were like, we don't really like the medical staff here. We want some changes. And they did. Okay, here's your test of this. Is that going to get Brandon Ingram back on the court quicker? If this is something where he misses like 5 games, we got a problem. Potentially. I don't want to say for sure we have a problem, because again, this is subjective. I don't know what he's feeling. We can think he should play or not, but this is his body. He knows it better than anybody else. The other thing with Brandon Ingram that it concerns me is, usually if he's out for a couple of games here and there, it takes him a game or two to get back into rhythm for whatever reason. That first game back from the toe contusion was not great. It took him like 3-4 games before he was kind of playing at a high level again. So this is something that might seem minor, but if he misses 2 games, okay, that may be with his poor play. If he comes back from it and isn't 100% or isn't ready to go, is now like a 3, 4, 5 game thing, even though you're getting him on the court. And that's not what we want in such a pivotal season, a big year for New Orleans. So I'm not concerned on the surface with this injury just yet. We need a little bit more info. We need to see, if he plays against OKC, like cool, no big deal. But it has potential to be something not great just based on what we've seen before. And with the Pelicans already dealing with injuries to Trey Murphy, Jose Alvarado, Nance is back, which is good. And Najee Marshall's still out, a hustle guy that kind of plays that wing role. I don't know. Concerns me a little bit. I don't think, though, that it's anything of like he's upset, he's trying to send a message or anything like that. I think we can put that out of our minds and kind of ignore all that for right now until we get reporting elsewhere. And we're not going to get reporting elsewhere on anything like that because everything's fine there. Okay, coming up next, new court for the New Orleans Pelicans. What'd you think? Purple? Like neon green, yellow? You like it? I'm going to tell you I like it. And I'm going to explain why I love the in-season tournament, because these games start actually happening for the Pelicans in a couple of days. So I'm excited about that. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Right now, though, I'm really excited to tell you about FanDuel because they've got an awesome offer for Locked On listeners. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. All you have to do is go sign up for FanDuel. No better time if you haven't done it yet. Go check out the Pelicans or any other team. Bet on them to win on the money line. And if they win, guess what? You get your winnings on that $5 bet and you get $150 in bonus bets. And the Pelicans are underdogs right now against the Thunder tonight. They're plus 136. You're going to turn your $5 into more money if the Pelicans end up winning. Or if you think they're going to lose, you can take the Oklahoma City Thunder on this too. And FanDuel is super easy to use. You know this Pelicans team, whether you're feeling good or bad. A bunch of y'all told me you think they're going to get killed. Guess what? You can bet on that. You can get in on the margin of victory for the Oklahoma City Thunder. If you think the Pels are going to come out screaming, looking good, you can bet on them to win by 11 to 15 points. It's going to pay plus 1,100 on there. You're going to win a bunch of money if that's the case. So go to FanDuel.com/LockedOnNBA. Download the app. Kick off the NFL season, the NBA season. They've got spreads, player props, others. That's again $150 if your team wins. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and get started today. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday for y'all, breaking down everything you want to know about this Pelicans team, the Number One Pelicans podcast, coming to you like nobody else is. If If you want to support the channel, become an everydayer. Listen Monday through Friday. If you listen one day a week, listen twice a week. No one else comes to you like this. We're going to be back doing the live shows after games, probably starting on Thursday, assuming my flight's not delayed. We'll have them. They have a bunch of away games next week. So if you're an everydayer and you want to get in on one of the live shows, we're going to be doing the post-game shows live. Basically, the second the games end, we go live on YouTube. It's a great way to interact with me, react in the moment to everything. And if you really want to support the channel, comment down below and join the Locked On Pelicans Insiders group. The subtext link is down below. You'll see it there. You get to text me directly. You got questions? I got answers for you. Shoot me a text. Tell me about how you're feeling about the team. If you're feeling good, what you're betting on with FanDuel. Maybe we can see if we can get a little bit of a consensus on all of that. Okay. In-season tournament games start for the Pelicans. And I'm not going to fully recap the in-season tournament for you. If you don't understand it, just go to NBA.com. I have a show on this. If you're an everydayer, you probably already know because I explained it. But essentially, this is a way to make the regular season a little more meaningful. Not insanely meaningful, but a little bit more. Because we all hear the cliche, right? The only thing that matters with the NBA is the postseason. The regular season doesn't matter at all. You know what? There is a little bit of truth to that. And this is a way that the NBA is trying to put more of an emphasis on the regular season. And you know what? I love it. I kind of dig it. I like doing all of this weird stuff. I think this makes things more interesting. So you haven't seen the leak yet. The leaked court, or it's not even leaked, it's been officially revealed by Zach Lowe of ESPN. It's purple. It's a purple court with just a huge neon green yellow stripe going down the middle, and it looks like nothing we've ever seen before. And it's going to have the skeleton logo on it, not skeleton pelican, which just makes me laugh whenever I say it, but the skeleton logo on it. And that is actually, I think it's like official name, though thank you, Tyler, for coining that to me when that was the obvious thing to have said. I dig this. It's different. You know, is this kind of hideous and garish? Oh yeah, I fully agree with that. Is this going to be easy on the eyes when we're in there? Absolutely not. But y'all have asked for the Pelicans to just do something different for a long, long time, right? Not a Mardi Gras jersey. This is different. It might not be exactly what you were hoping for, but it's certainly different. And you got to give them a lot of credit for just really thinking out of the box and doing something that they haven't done before. I like it. You know, we've seen the leak of the City Edition jerseys. The colors match up with this a good bit. The jerseys are black. They've got the purple, this sort of neon color, whatever it is, on there too. It's got the skeleton logo on it. I like that. I kind of dig these. I wouldn't say they're the most fire things I've ever seen, but I like that it's intriguing. There are going to be some people who go to a game, one of the in-season tournament games in New Orleans, just to see this court because why not? And that's the whole point of this. Look, you probably don't care about the in-season tournament that much, and you shouldn't because it's not actually really made for you. This is for the players. This is for organizations to just take the regular season a little bit more seriously. And that's why they're not adding games other than the championship game for the in-season tournament. They're using just regular season games. One of them is next week, I think, or 2 weeks from now against the Dallas Mavericks. That game on a random Monday, I think it is, Tuesday night, whatever it is, doesn't really matter. Teams might rest their players. You might not be interested in going because you have better things to do. You have a family, you have kids, you got to be up early for work. You don't host a podcast that's 5 days a week about the Pels, right? You got other things that maybe take up your bandwidth, your attention. But maybe you go because, hey, there's a little bit more of an emphasis on this game. And the Pelicans are running the promotion where you can win millions of dollars or like $1 million they're giving away, depending on how they do. This is all just to get people to care a little bit more about the regular season. It's a gimmick. It's full on a gimmick. But I think it could work. I really think it could work. You know, there's an incentive for the players to do this. $500,000 if you make it $1 million each, something like that. If you win, the financial incentive is about all they can do to these players to get them to really take this seriously. These guys probably would love an extra $1 million. I mean it. Wouldn't everybody? Why not go and play instead of resting that game? Making the court feel special. Making everything around this just be a little bit more lagniappe, right? Maybe even extra is the word to use here. I think is great. Anything that adds a little more value to the regular season for the organizations is good. I don't think you really care if the Pelicans win the in-season tournament or not. There's just no incentive other than, cool, we won this thing that was invented and doesn't actually matter and is brand new. You'd rather make the postseason over winning the in-season tournament, right? So who cares if you don't end up making the playoffs? But if it can get the players to play more in a regular season game, and it means they're not resting guys on national TV or for you just on a regular night, I'm all for anything and everything like that. And that's kind of what this is mainly for. Again, it's not for you, the fans, per se, other than to just kind of get a little bit excited, do some new stuff. But the NBA is clearly sinking money into this. These courts, I wouldn't say, are the cheapest thing in the world. They probably cost about $250,000 each to make one of these, and they're doing one for every single team. This is just a way to make 1 out of 82 games matter. It's more than one, however many they play, matter a little bit more. It's less about fans and more about just getting teams to care about the regular season. We're already seeing the rest. We talked about this in last week's show, right? Joel Embiid rested on the home opener for the 76ers. Bradley Beal, has he played yet for the Phoenix Suns? You already have Devin Booker out for this game against Victor Wembanyama. Anything that we can do to add some intrigue and excitement and just not have people like take games off, I think is good. And the NBA in-season tournament, the Commissioner's Cup or whatever it's called, if it does that, cool. Who cares if it's stupid? Who cares if fans don't even care about it, if it makes players care? Because you're going to watch that, and it's a regular season game too, and as long as they're taking that seriously, that's only going to help the league and be a good thing. And frankly, yes, raise a banner if you win the inaugural in-season tournament. Don't actually do that. They probably get rings, right? I think they're probably going to get rings or something like that. So there's enough incentive for players. It's really the money. But let's make the regular season matter a little bit more. It's a gimmick, but I like that they're doing it because they're trying something. Okay, coming up next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans, it's a game day for the Pelicans. They're taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder, who bumped New Orleans out of the play-in tournament last season. Time for a little bit of revenge. We'll see. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday for y'all, breaking down everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. Won't have a live show after this game. Won't have a live show until Thursday night, probably, where we do a quick recap after the Pistons game, and then we'll be doing one on Saturday. We'll also be doing them after every away game next week as well. So if you're an everydayer, you have that to look forward to. And Will Guillory on next week, maybe Aaron Summers the week after that. So we got some great guests coming up here regularly on Locked On Pelicans this season. So I'm excited. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We are the number one Pelicans podcast, your team every day as part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Okay, Oklahoma City Thunder 3-1 as they take on the New Orleans Pelicans tonight on the road. This one could be tough. The Thunder are a very, very good team, and they are led by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is off to a hot start this season. They got wins over Detroit. They've got wins over Chicago. They have a good win over the Cleveland Cavaliers too, but a little bit closer. This is the team the Pelicans almost wish that they were. You have a superstar player in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You have what you hope is your other piece in Chet Holmgren, the rookie, who does look really good this year. You have Josh Giddey as a complimentary player. You have your defensive guys in Lou Dort, Jalen Williams. They're a fun team. You have an exciting rookie in Kason Wallace, who has been getting his NBA, doing a decent job in the NBA so far. And they have tons of draft picks to improve the roster, right? OKC kind of took the spot of New Orleans as the young up-and-coming team with draft picks that could make big moves and do whatever they want. So it's disappointing to see kind of the roles reversed as injuries have, hurt New Orleans with all of this, but I do think they can win this game. Don't forget, they were up by 20 against the Oklahoma City Thunder in the play-in tournament game last year before they stormed back. The key to this one is slowing down Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. 26 points per game, 7 rebounds, 6.3 assists. He's shooting over 35% from three, 36% from three on decent attempts. He is getting to the foul line. He's just doing everything. He looks awesome for the Oklahoma City Thunder. He's capable of going for 40, 50 any given night. But if you have both Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram, which you didn't have in the play-in tournament game, that's a way to keep that offense matched up pretty well. And they're not the best offense in the league so far. They're 3-1, which is good, but they have the 13th ranked offense, so they're kind of middle of the pack. New Orleans, if they're fully healthy and some of the threes are falling, they can definitely hang with this team, I think. And if they're shooting a ton of threes and making those, OKC is not a team that takes a lot of threes. You know, you can win the math game there too. One area that I think is going to be interesting is if you can get Chet Holmgren in foul trouble early. Look, dude's a stick beanpole. You know, if he's matched up with Jonas Valanciunas, maybe get the ball to JV early, try and let him put a body into him and see if you can get him in foul trouble. One thing that does deter Zion and give Zion a lot of trouble is extreme length. And Chet Holmgren has extreme length. So having him either guarding Zion down low or coming over as a help defender is going to lead to some blocked shots. And on the season, Chet Holmgren's averaging 2.8 blocks per game. They are fourth in terms of blocks per game. That can be a problem for the Pelicans here, and length gives Zion a good bit of trouble. They also need a rebound because this is not a good offensive rebounding team for the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're actually worst when it comes to that in the league. New Orleans can't just give them easy second chance points. You can really limit them in that area. So hopefully instead of trying to get out and running, you see them gang rebounding if that starts to become an issue. Team rebounds, send more bodies to the ball, box out a little bit better. And you can probably easily win this game, I think. Not easily because of Shea, but they do think the Pelicans with their strengths could match up well, as OKC isn't necessarily an amazing rebounding team. We're going to see. They limit you and don't let you get to the free throw line, so trying to take advantage of that early is going to be an important thing. Zion's certainly capable of doing it. He doesn't get the foul calls because he's a big that he should. But there you go. What do you think is going to happen in this one? Pelicans are 3.5-point favorites, underdogs per FanDuel. Take them on the money line, take them on the spread. I think there's a good chance they can win this game and kind of shake off what happened against the Golden State Warriors, especially if Brandon Ingram plays. We'll get an update on that probably a little bit closer to tip-off. I wouldn't be shocked if he's like a game-time decision when it comes to this one. So that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Pelicans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter, and we'll be back with y'all tomorrow to recap the game.